What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Restoration Rundown Podcast, the podcast that's dedicated to you, the restoration business owner. My name is Ben Riccardi from Ironclad Restoration Marketing, and I'm the author of the No BS Guide to Internet Marketing for Restoration Contractors. Now, the Restoration Rundown is your source for everything related to managing and owning your restoration business, from bringing on special guests and sharing success stories to taking deep dives with our team here at Ironclad Restoration Marketing into all of the online channels that you need to be tapping into to get visibility for your restoration business and get more leads from the internet. We've got you covered. So buckle up and get ready for the rundown.
Oh, yeah, here we are again. It's a different little bit of a background. I'm in another part of the office because we've got a really cool episode here. We're trying to fit in all this stuff because 2024 really just seemed like it flew by. I don't know if that's the case for everybody out there listening to this or watching this on YouTube or LinkedIn right now. But I am Ben Riccardi with Ironclad Restoration Marketing. Today's episode is going to be a fun one. It's going to be a little bit retrospective, I guess, and introspective and kind of looking at what's to come. But we're going to be bringing on a heavy hitting guest today. She is one of many of the key team players here at Ironclad Restoration Marketing. Again, she's in the trenches. You might have heard her speak if you listen to the 2025 No BS Internet Marketing Plan for Restoration Contractors. So join me with a huge round of applause, everybody out there. Unless you're driving, keep hold hands on the wheel, and welcome Nikki to the rundown. What's up, Nikki?
Hey, everybody. How's it going?
They didn't answer. They must not care. No, anyways, thank you, Nikki.
Proud.
So I kind of prepped it before I brought you in here, but you and the team have put together kind of like a mostly internal kind of recap of what kind of the landscape in digital marketing looked like last year, which can't even still believe that we're in 2025 and already like through one of the months in that year. I'm still writing 2024 on checks. But you guys did put together a pretty comprehensive look on what we kind of were up against last year and maybe some changes that we're going to be seeing come ahead here in 2025 for specifically for digital marketing and more specifically for the restoration world. Before we get into that, I'm going to go ahead and then share my screen with the deck here and add it so everybody can see that, our 2024 digital marketing recap.
Yeah, there's been a lot of changes, and on the day-to-day, you might see something in your marketing company change, and you might have questions. And it's just, with the way Google is, the climate of the digital marketing environment right now, sometimes there has to be changes. And we thought it was a good opportunity to explain why you might see some things changing and let you know that we kind of know what we're doing a little bit.
Now,
when it comes to this
stuff.
No, depends on who you ask.
Well, and definitely more so you guys know what you're doing than me in most cases, but that's why we do this. So it's a really kind of a gut check. In most cases, we've known all this stuff was coming. A lot of these changes were late in the year in 2024, but I think it's important to look back on what was going on, right? So especially for anybody out there that's listening that might be engaging with another marketing agency, or they have a great in-house team, or they have a great agency. This is just to help reiterate that, like, you can't set and forget this stuff. Things move so fast, especially now in this technological age, in the last 20 years, now more with the prevalence of AI, things are moving really quick. So we really love doing these internally in-house to kind of be a gut check to make sure we're on top of all this stuff. So we figured it'd be great to share it with everybody out there, more to affirm that you might be doing the right thing, or maybe kind of teach you, like we learn a lot, to you have to move into a different direction. So really quick, what changed based off of everything that you guys have sent in? We're looking at a huge increase in competition, right? In the restoration world, there's a lot more people getting into the game. There are a lot more companies out there, and more so, there's people that are becoming way more savvy when it comes to their online visibility, right? A lot of these things have become much more user-friendly regarding, your big three: SEO, Google Business Profile Management. LSA has been, huge for our clients here. So with the increase in competition, much like cat season, you have a big increase in costs that come into play, and also tactics have to evolve. Because listen, there's only one right way to rank well in organic, right? And one right way to rank well in GBP. So you really have to be on top of these changes to give your company a little bit of an edge when it comes to the competition getting increased.
Yeah, absolutely. It's it's like your everyday diet. If you eat the same thing every day, you're not going to get anywhere. You're not going to get the nutrients you need. So you got to make sure that you're changing what you eat and adapting. And the climate's always changing. There's more people popping into the restoration industry, knowing this is where we can make money. So we have to figure out how to get around that and make you guys the shining star of what we're doing. So.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that 100% on the head. The other thing, so we know the competition's increasing. You kind of look at it like cat season, when it's hurricane season down here in Florida, listen, your cost per acquisition is going to drastically increase and everybody's trying to get a piece of that pie. Well, it's starting to be that way for every different type of service in every single territory, which it's a good thing because, it forces people to, like you mentioned, adapt or die. So another huge change, 2024, and this is another, I think it changes as we're speaking right now, is the prevalence of AI. We're going to dive a little bit into that today. I know I'm super excited because there's a lot that's changing with search with AI. I know we talk a lot about in the 2025 webinar, we talked a lot about what AI can do for you for content generation, but there's a lot more to it that's coming down the pipeline. Again, some of it's hearsay. Anytime you're dealing with Google and algorithm updates, they don't give you everything right off the bat. They kind of dunk you underwater. They make the changes and then they're like, oh, by the way, we made these big changes, blah, blah, blah. So we're going to do a little bit of a dive into AI, kind of what's happening, what we're seeing. But I know that you and I are going to be doing a very deep dive into AI from a content generation standpoint and how to rank on your organic search and even Google Business Profile with the utilization of some of this generative content stuff that Google has coming out. Speaking of which, algorithm updates. I know you mentioned there's a few of those that have happened. I know I talk a lot about this a lot. In 2022, there's like 5,000. So it's almost impossible to keep up on top of it, especially because Google's not super transparent when it comes to that kind of stuff down the road. We're going to look and talk to you a lot about the Google Business Profile updates. Again, this is another webinar that's coming down the line here between Nikki and I and some of the other team here is talking about some of these changes. And then we're going to get into LSA a little bit and some of the changes that did happen in 2024, because there was a couple big ones. And then what we think we can expect to come down the pipeline in 2025, just to help supplement the webinar that we recently rolled out, our yearly internet marketing plan. So we're going to dive right into it. We're going to talk about the Google Business Profile. Nikki, I'm going to let you talk about some of the big changes that people may have noticed. And if you're not managing your Google Business Profile and you're watching this on YouTube, and really big in the bottom and bold, we thought it would be prudent just to say that you can't set it and forget it anymore with your Google Business Profile. You really have to intimately work on this thing and optimize it constantly to make sure that you're getting the best bang for your buck, because it's how you rank on your map section, right? And it is now tied into your organic search. And now, to spill the beans a little bit, there's some stuff with LSA that you have to be cognizant of with your Google Business Profile. So I'm going to let you talk about some of the changes that we see, and then we can dive into this a little deeper.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that you kind of mentioned that I'll touch on a little bit more is a lot of people see GBP, Google Business Profile, and they say this is strictly about maps. But, it's your Google Business Profile is tied to your LSA and to your website and, to every little thing you've got on Google. So it really should be a prominent part of your business. Plus, you don't have to be a marketing expert to work on your GBP to make sure that your customers are seeing exactly what you want them to see about your business. So it's very entry-level thing that you can do as any Tom, Dick, or Harry on the street, but also that gets you incredible results if you use it right. So the first thing that you guys will probably, or you probably already have noticed, I think it happened in July, if I'm not mistaken, is they took down the ability to use call tracking or to message directly through Google Business Profile. I think it's kind of a bittersweet because a lot of people didn't utilize it, didn't respond very quickly. So it's something that you don't have to be sweating over, checking that all the time. But it does cause you to need something to supplement that interaction with your clients. So something that we do suggest for everybody is to use a call tracker and tie. We use CallRail in the office, so you can have a specific number for your GBP, and you can know exactly where your calls are coming from. For us, it's super important. And for you, if you're not working with Ironclad, it's really great to know who's getting you what, and all that kind of important information, so you know which basket to put your eggs in. They've also added a space for you to add your social media, which is very cool. I think it's kind of making it a one-stop shop for your clients. You can have everything there that they could possibly want or need. And that's something you should definitely take advantage of. There used to be something called the GBP website where you can kind of build a little website within your Google business profile. You can link to it. They were cute.
They used to be great rankings when they released them. So it's funny that you're talking about all these changes, and literally the only thing I'm thinking of is like, man, I really got to rewrite my entire book for like the 6th time, because there's some stuff in there that is BS. So I got to either rewrite the book or just change the cover to say the Some BS Guide to Internet Marketing for Restoration Contractors, because some of this stuff, with the call tracking and messaging was huge when it came out, because if you're spending money on this, or you're doing it yourself, like it is nice to know where your leads are coming from. So, there's nobody that can hide behind the ambiguity of this data that's coming in.
It's really hard to put anything into paper or concrete form as far as Google goes, because they make so many changes, and some of them they don't make you aware of until you go to interact with it, or they make minor changes and then they phase it out. So a lot of the stuff you're seeing, if it's not like a month old or something very recent, is going to be a bit of BS. So keeping up with that is challenging. You'd have to write a book every month, every 2 months to keep up with what Google's doing. So
we got to figure something out with that. I hate that, it's out there, but hey, if you did buy the book, use it as a general guideline, and maybe use the podcast as a supplemental text content to help you like move along if you're struggling with anything. This next bullet, I'm so stoked about. I left your note in there on purpose, because we don't know 100%, but we're just so hopeful that this next thing is actually happening, because I know you are, especially because this is like a mind-numbing craziness, but dealing directly with the suspensions, right? So talk a little bit about that.
If you've ever had to deal with a suspension, or even initially getting your business verified lately with Google, it was so frustrating. I was pulling out my hair. I was crying. I was threatening to quit and burn the place down. It's just a nightmare. It could take you a couple days to have a successful change, or it could take you months. And the big problem was they are always updating their criteria, but they're not necessarily putting that information on their forums. A lot of the times I'd fall to like Reddit and other places to see what I could possibly be doing wrong. Now Google is, and this comes directly from their support team, they will be offering you, after you submit your video or after you do your live video, exactly what criteria is missing in order for you to become verified. So as somebody who's put in a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, quite literally, in this department, it's a game changer. It's a game changer for sure. It's still probably going to be frustrating and a little bit tedious, but at least this way you can submit your first video.
Sure.
And if you get your ducks in a row based on their feedback, and you have to submit again, you have a little bit of a guideline rather than going into it blindly, because the person on the other end is not, even when you do the live video, nobody's giving you that kind of clearance and information that you need for success. So this is a game changer for sure.
Huge. Yeah, I know we had one client specifically that was like, 7 or 8 months. We were trying to get their verification done. I mean, if you've ever had to deal with this process, I think you could share some of our pain, but again, like Nikki said, it's a 2-day or 2-year process to get these things. And the problem was you get no insight. You're literally sending in appeals, you're emailing, you're following up. And then from our clients, they don't understand that. And they're calling us and what's going on. And, gotta love the one that we stuck with us for 7 months, while we're trying to get this done. But now at least we have some sort of direction to go if we ever have this issue again. So we're really good because it was kind of a perfect storm. Google started training their AI to find fake profiles. And it was just like, oh, you want to change your business hours? Suspended. You want to update your website? You're suspended. So they were just handing them out. And so what happened was with the bug, and I did make a video about this a couple of years ago or last year, maybe. The way time flies, it could have been 10 years ago, but they were allowing their AI to train. And what happened, they got so backlogged of people trying to appeal these suspensions that were not legit that they just shut them down. So they were like, listen, here's a minimum. We found the issue. Hey, we had a bug. They wait till you're like 6 months in. They tell you they had a bug. And like, by the way, we're backlogged on even getting you responses. So yeah, this is super exciting that this is going to be happening out there. So if you are suspended and you can't figure it out, even though Nikki said it drives her crazy, we do have, lucky for us and our clients, we have 100% reinstatement rate so far. We have not come up against something that we could not figure out or get reinstated. So if you are struggling with something like that, I implore you, go find us on the website, go to ironcladrestorationmarketing.com, give us a call. We'll set up a strategy session and see if there's something we could do to help you out and get that thing lifted.
Yeah. And if you're sitting there, making your videos frustrated, just know on my end, my heart's breaking for you. I'm doing everything I can to help. Google makes it a little challenging because you guys do have to be the one to submit the video. You have to show your physical location. You have to show street signs. You have to show your truck. Yeah. Things that I'm not going to be able to show for you. So I feel for you. We're in the trenches together. We're not just sitting here picking our nose. And not working. We're picking our nose and working at the same time.
Yes, so that's ambidextrous nose picking and keyboard typing. But on that note too, part of our deep dive into GBP, Google Business Profile, we're going to talk a little bit about that verification process. So we do find that sometimes, and it's easy to do, there's some user error that's involved there. So it is quite a big pain in the rear end to do. But if you kind of keep the mentality that this is all in an attempt for Google to mitigate spam, mitigate maybe people that are in your territory that are not doing the right thing. Maybe they're fake companies. Maybe it's some sales floor. I know and a lot of the septic pumping and stuff like that is happening where it's like these big giant companies are buying everybody up. They're keeping the domains, keeping the names, and then you're ended up getting a call center. So Google's really trying to combat that to make sure there's transparency there. So all this stuff's super frustrating because, hey, time is money. You can't afford to be screwing around here waiting for the stupid verification, but it's so important and integral to your overall online marketing presence that, you kind of got to deal with it. So
yeah. And if it wasn't,
we're going to spend a lot of time on that.
Yeah, for sure. They've also, just a little bit more on the verification, is they have, this is just kind of speculation at this point. We will get more details, but they've tightened their verification process. You kind of see it a little bit now. You have to provide like a utility bill with your business name and your address and licensure and all kinds of things that, in the past, it used to be they would send you a postcard to your physical location and you would type the number in on the postcard and call it a day. So it is buckling down, but if you are a legitimate business that's watching this, then that should be good news for you because it will kick all of the garbage to the curb, have the trash take itself out, however you want to look at it. None of that fake
postcard or the postcard days, or as we like to call them, the good old days.
I'm going to have Ironclad branded old Google postcards, and that's what we're going to start sending out for Christmas, just to give people PTSD.
Just some nostalgia, just some. How about the phone calls you used to just be able to get, like, hey, it's Google, here's your code, and you're like, I'm verified, great. Now I'm going to call all my uncles and aunts and cousins to leave me a Google review, even though it doesn't make a difference. Man, how the times have changed. Yeah,
now it's hard to fake it. You got to make it. That's all. Yeah. That's the only way that we could talk about. Something I'm super excited for, and I very lightly touched the surface on this on my end of things. I'm hoping to have it put together for the next GBP video. Is there is way more analytics now on your Google business profile. I was looking at some of our clients earlier this morning, and you could see how many times somebody's clicked to get to your website, how many phone calls have been made. So there's not so much guesswork. You can see some tangible results as far as what the Google business profile is getting you with interaction. So I think that's really super cool.
Yeah.
And then one thing that kind of goes to the big main thing that we have right now is that Google is no longer set it and forget it. They are really promoting businesses that are responsive, that are, instead of, spamming 50 photos of the jobs they do at once and then never looking at their Google business profile again, people that are putting a couple up every month, people that are responding to Google reviews as quickly as possible, adding videos. I think a lot of people are sleeping on video content in restoration because they don't think that people want to see that kind of stuff about people cleaning houses. I watch a lot of videos of people organizing fridges. So, there's a weirdo out there for every single one of you. But not just that. So the AI is going to watch these videos and they're going to promote you because they could see you physically working, talking to your clients, looking at that water.
Yep.
Video content is going to be big news on 25. So if you're not ready for it, get ready. That's what you're going to need to succeed moving forward. I know that's not on the slide, but
we're going to talk about it. I've always been a proponent of video marketing. And in fact, just give everybody a little bit of a history here. When Ironclad first started, we started off like heavy on video because, one, I love video and I love being on camera and helping people. But we could see this coming down the pipeline for years. So we are rolling that out as a service, and we're working with some of our current clients right now in beta to just get some more videos up there. But kind of to recap all of this stuff, Nikki talked about, one, you can't set it and forget it on your Google business profile. So you need to be consistent across the board, whether that's getting reviews, updating your content, adding photos. The ninja hack here is to be responsive to reviews. When they send a review in, respond to it, put your customer service hat on and respond to the review. You got to understand how difficult it is, and you probably do, how hard it is to get somebody to leave you a review unless you've pissed them off. So if you get a good review, man, syndicate it. Take a screenshot, put it on your website, put it on your social media, put it out in an email blast, really help build that social proof and that trust and authority. But make sure you're being consistent. Add videos to your Google business profile and don't overthink it. If you're making a video for your Google business profile, what we're going to do for our clients is pull your phone out. If you have an iPhone that's older than an iPhone 5, which is probably like from 10 years ago, you can record high def 780p, or 1080p content right on your phone and upload it right to Google. There's so many apps out there. I know CapCut got shut down recently, but there's so many free apps where you can add a logo and you can add music. I mean, anybody can do this. And then you just take that video, put it up on your Google business profile, put it on your website. People are consuming video content at breakneck speeds, and with AI coming out and doing more of these scans and crawling sites and looking for keywords and they're going to be looking at the images in the videos, and they're going to be looking at everything to help build your portfolio of keywords. It's really hard to fake a video about you. So it's really hard to get me on camera talking about Ironclad Restoration Marketing and the services we provide and legitimately in my office doing that. Or if I was a restoration contractor, I'd be in front of my fleet, maybe at a job teaching people about what to do if they have frozen pipes. It's hard to fake that. So I can say, I know it's speculative right now, but I have a strong feeling that with the more Google's training their AI to look for things like that, that is going to be the next wave. So, really got to keep your eye on the prize. And I know Nikki's really working hard to, keep us up on the latest and greatest when it comes to video. So when we do roll out this Google Business Profile deep dive, I'm sure that's going to be a big part of it. So we'll, on that note, we talked a lot about this a little bit. I'm going to jump in here In the webinar we just ran, we talked a little bit about AI towards the end, but we were really gearing that content and that topics towards you individually generating your own content for your company. But really, in the grand scheme of things, AI is going to be the future of search. We just talked about video. We just talked about what's happening in your Google business profile. Nikki has a ton of really cool methods that she's put together for the team when it comes to us managing our clients' Google business profiles that help Google really just understand who you are as a business, build trust in Google's eyes, and then therefore give you more visibility. But there was last May, if you've noticed when you do a Google search, you're getting this generative AI query. So if you type in, what do I do when I have a frozen pipe? You're seeing these generative AI coming in, and they're just giving you an answer. Well, what a lot of people don't understand is those answers are just being pulled directly from somebody's website. So as part of ranking tactics, we're implementing that into our search engine optimization programs, but it also works for Google Business. The con of that, which Nikki, brought to my attention based off a few articles we read, is that we're going to see a drop in website traffic. So don't be afraid. It's not, if you're doing the right thing, I usually liken these Google algorithm changes to getting dunked underwater. All right. If you are doing the right thing, you're going to float back up to the surface at some point, right? No matter how bad it gets. If you're not, and you're maybe trying to circumvent or using black hat tactics, or you're trying to cheat the system, for instance, using AI to generate all your content without you even looking at it and making sure that it falls within the EEAT standards that Google's looking for, which, we'll talk about here in the next slide, you're probably going to be okay. But really understanding that this stuff is coming down the pipeline is super important. So you may see a reduction in organic traffic. Your keywords might drop, but if you're working with the right agency, Ironclad Restoration Marketing, at some point you will come on top, right? I know you mentioned in some of your notes that you're going to see some credibility boosting. You're going to see some improvements in user experience, which if you have listened to videos in the past, user experience and page speed are ranking factors now. So there's a lot coming, and we are going to dive into it. The reason we're not going to go crazy with this today is because it's changing like daily, right? So some of the stuff we're talking about is speculative. There hasn't been any concrete evidence yet. We are waiting. There's a couple big marketing powerhouses out there that poll literally every marketing agency in the United States, and they put together kind of a snapshot of what was there, what's to come. We're going to be rolling that out. So we're really trying to hold back as much as possible, even though that as soon as we run this out, they're going to change something. So there are some cons to this, but again, the pros I think are going to greatly outweigh the cons here. And at the end of the day, if you offer a seamless website experience with great user experience, helpful, authoritative content on your website, no matter who's looking at your stuff, whether it's AI or a bunch of people in some sort of sweatshop somewhere that Google uses, I don't know how they work, you're going to be okay at some point.
At some point, yeah. With that being said, just a little wrap up is you may see things changing. You may be wondering what's going on with my rankings. Right now AI is so new. We have to adapt. And when you make a change on a website, I believe the last time I looked, it could be different now, but it takes Google about 21 days to crawl and to recognize the change. So you might see a bunch of changes on your website and you might say, oh, this isn't helping. I'm a little worried about it. But it's just like everything else. You got to give it a little bit of time. The robots are good, but they're not that good. So you can't go to bed and the next day have moved from number 20 to number 1. So just give yourself some time and trust in your experts. If you have a good company, we're looking into it. They're looking into it. Ironclad's number 1, but we got you covered.
Yeah. And just to wrap that up a little bit with the AI generated content. So, I think there's something to having a tool out there that can just instantly give you content for your site, which is great. And when we talk about people losing rankings and losing traffic, I'm going to go out on a limb and say I'm 100%, 100% believe that it's because they're just letting the tool do the work when what Google's looking for is what's called EEAT, which they're looking for expertise, they're looking for experience, they're looking for authoritativeness and trustworthiness. So the only people that can talk about your business, right, to build trust with your target clients are you. So using Gemini, ChatGPT, anything like that, and you want it to affect SEO, it's an awesome tool for generating content at scale, right? We use it, but it has to be uniquely run and spoken to from your voice, because what Google's looking for is you to provide helpful content. You got to babysit it. You got to do that, because what they're going to prioritize as this changes and evolves is the more trustworthy, helpful content. And that's what's popping up on this generative AI. However, there are some bad stuff on generative AI because companies still are using old school methods, and they might have AI write them 3 or 4 blogs or a city landing page or even a service page on their website. And right now it's probably going to rank really well, but there's probably going to be information that's bad. I mean, even when we write content, when we were like old school handwriting all of our content, copywriting everything, it's impossible to write it exactly how company XYZ would speak, right? And not just in their vernacular, but just more about regionally, right? Because the Northeast is very different, has very different problems and very different PTSDs with their target clients as people in Texas or California. So if you're going to be using these tools, I'm a huge proponent of it. Nikki, we use it here, but there is a lot. It's a framework, right? It's not a magic pill. It's more of just some sort of guideline and framework that you can build just to get it out there at scale. But you got to go through it and look, because Google knows when you're using AI generated content. Now, the cool thing about it is, and where we used to say like be super careful, but AI content, no matter what you write, has to be written for people first. If you write content for SEO, meaning it's just super technical, you got keywords busting there, you're not going to rank well. You might have used to, and you may still be, but they're moving away from that. They want to know that your content you're writing for people, and that's how you are going to get ahead of this SEO curve when it comes to these algorithm updates, because that's what they are doing. They're training AI to look at things like we look at things, and that's what they want. Google's intentions from the get-go is that's what they wanted to do. They wanted to deliver the most relevant, pertinent content to their user base for queries as possible. And everything they do with all these changes is really to mitigate all these people out there that are spamming and putting together BS on the websites and trying to circumvent their processes.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and you have to realize too that, yeah, it's the robots that are assessing the information. But at the end of the day, it's not robots that are going into Google and typing, what do I do when my pipes freeze, or, with my frozen pipes? It's a person on the other end of that. And Google's going to find the one that's the most legitimate. So I'm trying to think of how to put it into words. You want to be able to answer the person.
Yes.
The best way that you can, because it's people that you're appealing to. We have to, talk about the robots because they're here. They're the elephant in the room.
I'm ready for Terminator. I've seen Terminator 2 like 85 times. So do anybody out there that's worried about Skynet, got you covered. Hit me up in South Florida.
I'm getting robot surgery. I'm going to be a robot one day. And this might sound biased, but you can't fire your content writers because of the robots. Okay.
No, you can't. You can't. And Nikki, you made a great point. You're not writing content for the crawlers, the robots, whatever you want to call them. You're not writing content for them. You are writing content. The content structure, how you have the back end programmed, the type of keywords that you use are very important. There's 400 ranking factors when it comes to SEO. Those are just a few. Those are the big ones. Mm-hmm. But there's nothing that's going to be authoritative, helpful, legitimate content that's written from you for the service that you were trying to rank for. Now, there's all sort of things to be said about that, and we are going to have another, main webinar when it comes to this content writing for the DIY people out there, or just people that want to learn so they can empower themselves with this knowledge to be able to make better buying decisions when it comes to hiring an agency. But a few things that you want to remember, just to wrap up the AI thing, because we could go on and on and on about all these channels. You want to make sure you're focusing on the featured snippets if you are creating content. And that's when I talk about featured snippets, that's that AI generated like overview when you ask Google something. It's very similar to back in the day, there used to be position 0, which there still is, where when you would Google something and you'd have those drop down accordion tabs, that's all content pulled off your website. And there's, we'll talk about how to do that and how to rank for that in the next webinar. But really easy is you're just creating lists, and you're basically presenting the question and you're giving it the best answer from your brand and your business as possible. And there's certain structure that's within that, like unordered and ordered lists from a nerdy website creating standpoint. create high quality content, right? Some of these content pieces that are coming out, you can tell they're AI generated. You can tell that somebody paid somebody on Fiverr to write them like 90 articles, and it's just trash, and they're not checking it. They're just throwing it up on the website. There are plugins if you're using WordPress. I've seen it in a couple restoration conferences where there's softwares. They're like, oh, well, this plugin will populate 30 pieces of content a month, and it's like, okay, but it doesn't work. It may work for a month or two. At some point, I promise you, if you're not doing the right thing, Google's going to catch up to it. Optimize your site for voice search. We'll get into that a little bit more in the ranking factors, SEO webinar, whatever we're going to end up calling it. But it's true. Most people are picking up their phone and they're pushing to Siri or whatever kind of phone you have. If you're a weirdo, you got a Galaxy or a Samsung or whatever. If you're a regular person like me, you got an iPhone. Oh, sorry, Nikki, you're breaking up. I can't see you thumbs downing anybody out there. But Nikki, it is a Samsung. We can't hold that against her. Not everybody's perfect. Some people hate the color blue on their messages. Some people hate to see if people read their messages. I get that. But the reality is sometimes it's easier just to pull the phone out and ask your phone a question, right? So between Apple and search, Google's kind of trending in that direction. So again, if you're writing the content in your voice and you're writing it as helpful content, you're kind of getting optimized for voice search. So it's not like this undaunted, or daunting task that you have to overcome. But again, all of these things boil down to one. And overall, you want to make sure you have a strong online presence. And that's kind of what the net result is of all these different tips that we're talking about today. All right. So algorithm updates. Again, we're gonna dive into this. We've identified 7 we'll call them major updates because they're the ones that Google admitted to, but we know that there's way more than that. In the year that was like 5,000, they only admitted to like 10. So there's a lot more that goes into it. Both core and spam updates. Again, we don't want to dive into these updates too much, but realistically, the reality is they're just trying to mitigate spam. They're trying to find those people that are using AI to try to cheat the system or cheat the user base. They're using people that are using black hat techniques to rank or something, like going after their competition on Google Business Profile, et cetera, et cetera. They're really enforcing this EEAT. Again, common sense from what we're talking about here. That's the kind of content you want on your website, right? You're writing content for your target client, and you got to make sure it speaks to them. We talk about this a lot to plug that 2025 internet marketing plan. So I implore you to check it out. It's available on any streaming platform on YouTube. And we talk a little bit about the type of content that you want to be creating. But they are enhancing that system, right, Nikki? They're really going to start penalizing a little bit more for that generic content. And then if you're trying to stuff keywords, they're going to penalize you. They used to penalize people when I first got into the internet marketing game, you'd see a lot of websites, and at the bottom of the website, there'd be like an entire paragraph of keywords, just like water damage, water, mold, flood, and they're all there, and they're just stuffed, and they put the kibosh on that pretty quick. But people can still, they found unique ways to do that. They just add a couple indicator words and some prepositions in between those keywords, and it's like, it makes zero sense. It's like, you put it into a computer and it threw up a bunch of keywords on your website. They're going to penalize you for that. Not only that, like, if you're somebody that's paying somebody on Fiverr to write this content, and like you read it and you're like, wow, this sounds like, somebody on Fiverr wrote this content. How do you think your user base is going to look at that content, right? Do you think that's going to convert? It never made a whole lot of sense to me why people like go down that road and try to cheat the system.
I think that they are making it so that simpler is better. I do think that you kind of need to have a hybrid of SEO / people, because you don't want to. They're penalizing people for over optimizing now too. Yeah. So before it was like, I want to show up for just water damage restoration. So you would write, what is water damage restoration? Water damage restoration is when you have water damage and you need water damage restoration from a water damage restoration expert. You just heard it 17 times in 2 sentences. So
that sounds like all of my college papers are just when I needed to have like 2,000 words,
Yeah, you're double spacing, you're freaking just words.
Think about it. You're just, and you hit a really good point, Nikki. Like, as much as we want to write for the customer, the reality is we also have to write for the search engines. But it's easy to do if you're following the EEAT kind of method, and then you have a good off-page SEO plan, and you're also doing all the on-page stuff properly, it's not as daunting as it seems. Again, but also at the same time, it is, because there's like thousands of ranking factors here that we have to take into consideration. But I mean, really, they're trending in the direction of just simple, helpful, authoritative content that is properly optimized. And that's why, not just any Joe can go and be an SEO person, right? Not anybody can just sit down and be a Google business profile expert. So that does present some challenges if like you do have in-house marketing people, because it's rare to have unicorns that can kind of do all of that. So there's just so many pieces, us, our SEO team's 4 different people touch stuff before it even goes to the technical side. So there's a lot to it. But I think it's kind of cool because you really can, if you're willing to like learn a little bit, you probably can be pretty competent in getting some of this stuff done and be pretty healthy on a search engine, especially with how powerful your Google business profile is now.
Yeah, I would just say if you can prioritize one thing when you're making content, is answer the questions that your customers ask you. If you think they're going to go in and type it into a Google bar, it's worth making content for. And you don't have to say that you're a water damage restoration company 17 times in a row. Just kind of keep it natural. Yeah, work the keywords into there, whatever you think is important. But at the end of the day, it's becoming more appealing to the humans to have the robots on the back end of things. So just keep that in mind. It's people like, your kids, your grandma, your mom that are Googling these things and that aren't trying to be sold a bill of goods. They're just trying to find the answer of, can they do water damage restoration on their own? Does mold grow after water damage? Like that kind of stuff. Just keep it simple.
Helpful content. And, you made a really great point before about just making sure that you are not, one, being consistent with the way you put this stuff out there, but 2, to recap it, like just make sure you know who you're talking to, right? And part of that webinar we all just did here, that's launched, the 2025 webinar, is you really have to know who it is you're talking to, right? So we know that you have to make helpful content to be with the new reinforced EEAT with Google. But what does that look like, right? If you're just generic, right, and you're not being granular with the type of content you're putting out, you might miss your target demo. So anybody that's listening to this, really spend some time kind of digesting who it is that you want to sell to, because then it'll really help you craft your marketing plan. Because again, property managers are going to have certain types of content resonate with them. They're going to be looking for certain types of things. They're going to have certain past experiences in most cases dealing with large losses versus a just like a stay-at-home mom or dad that walked into their kitchen and their dishwasher leaked and got their whole entire Pergo floor wet and there was bubbles everywhere. And they're like, what do I do? So having content on your site, to recap all this stuff, frequently asked questions are a great start. Not only for your website content, but also social media posts and videos, right? Answer the question that most people go. So if you want to rank for water damage restoration, start answering some questions that are relative to it. What do you do when you find this? What do you do, for mold? What do I do when I see mold in my closet? And answer those questions and with authority. And just like if I was asking you, called you on the phone and said, hey, I just found a bunch of water coming out the bottom of my water heater. What do I do? And you're like, well, first thing you should do is, call a water restoration professional. But then, in the meantime, do X, Y, Z, be safe and blah, blah, blah. So it's, again, all this stuff's really straightforward. It's common sense when we're speaking it out loud, but with so many things kind of circling around and so many different channels, it does get a little difficult to keep up with it. So again, we're going to go over all this stuff in a lot of different webinars. We'll try to give you an overview and not keep you too long. The next huge one here is LSA. LSA has made some big changes in 2024. If you're running LSA, you probably know what I'm talking about. Hopefully, you should be looking at your LSA like every day and making sure you're following up with leads and stuff like that. But some of the big changes, just to kind of skim through this, we're in the middle of putting together talk about webinars. We're going to be busy with webinars this year, but we are putting together another deep dive LSA webinar to help you guys out there, because this is another Google property that I think it's been like one of the most effective channels for getting leads for our clients in most cases. So it's really important, and it's a way more, the ROI is a lot higher than just traditional Google ads. So LSA is part of the Google ads platform. The difference is you're paying per lead. Google guarantees. That's why they call it the Google guarantee. They guarantee they're going to be legitimate leads if you follow all your guidelines. And if they're not, they actually give you your money back. So it's pretty cool versus Google ads, where it's every time somebody clicks on your ad. Hopefully you have things like ClickCs and implemented and negative keywords on both, so you don't waste a bunch of money, but you tend to have a better ROI for it. Google ads is kind of trending in the direction of like being as an as needed basis, for storm chasing, or right now frozen pipe season, using those ads to try to get in other locations, or if there's something specific that hits, like the hurricanes down here and in the Carolinas recently, that's where Google ads are. But so for LSA, if you're not running them, got to get into it. It's huge. So if you are, a couple things that you might have noticed is the app is gone now. They don't have an LSA app. Hey, Google wants to make everything easy by making everything hard. So you do have to manage your LSA on a computer. It's okay. Sometimes like things like that, there's pluses and minuses about using your phone for certain things like that. So I think it's a little more robust on a desktop. There's a couple new categories that they've released, which LSA works off of a main category. They just added kitchen and bath remodeling and HVAC, but just like water damage, if you're running LSA ads, you're doing it for water, you need to prove certification. So if you have any kind of GC license, I'm sure they're going to be looking for something like that, or whatever is relative into the HVAC. If you dabble into that a little bit, some people do everything. That's just something to keep in mind. If you do want to run LSA on that in the home services, you got to have certifications just like you do with water damage restoration. The reviews link, right? You used to have 2 homes for your reviews, right? You had LSA reviews, and then you had your Google Business Profile reviews, which I never understood, and I thought it was stupid in the first place. But they're going away with the Google Business the LSA specific review link. They're not going. We can go through reviews of Google Business Profile as much, but they're getting rid of they're kind of bringing them back.
Don't make me cry.
I know.
Don't make me cry.
I'll let you know really with like sending you flowers to your house if they do change something in the next couple of weeks. So they're done. So if you were ever sending your Google reviews, like when you had an LSA lead come in and you sent them a link from that to leave you a review and it went just on your LSA, that's gone. So you need to make sure that you either lick your wounds and just start getting reviews to your Google Business Profile. But if you want to go through it, contact those clients that left you reviews on your LSA only and just have them relieve those reviews on your Google Business Profile. They want to just have, again, we have a note on here. The integration is just more about ensuring consistency with them. Before I started talking about it, I told you how stupid of an idea I thought that was, like to have them in two separate places. Like it's hard enough to get reviews in the first place, like let alone getting them for LSA. If you don't, another huge one that came, and we don't have the dates on here right now, but if you don't have a verified Google Business Profile, you may have noticed since November that you don't have an LSA account that's active anymore. Well, that's because they got rid of the reviews on LSA and they want the reviews to come from your Google, but it really brings everything into one home, which I really like. And I know that our team really likes that because you're not managing multiple channels and multiple properties. Again, you should be getting reviews. You should be getting them consistently. And if you're running LSA and you don't have a Google if you ran LSA in the past and you can't get it verified anymore, it's most likely because you don't have a verified Google Business Profile. So now you can see, as we're kind of working through these changes, how everything now used to be kind of decoupled. They're all kind of coupling together now for an overall, look and picture for your online visibility. With that, Google, with all these changes, Google's losing a little bit of lion's share of search here. So it used to be like 95% of search belonged to Google. And I think they just saw an article where they just dropped below 90% for the first time ever. So again, there's some changes coming, but luckily for you, and if you're subscribed to our channel, or you listen to us on a podcast on the Restoration Rundown, we're going to be on top of these changes for you. And we're going to make sure if you're a client of ours that you're going to be in good health. And on that note, like Nikki said, just remember when you're making these changes, especially with like your content on your website or you're producing it, it takes Google almost a month just to crawl that. So remember that there's no such thing as a direct response type of marketing. LSA is about as close as it gets right now, especially online. The other cool thing and the last thing that we'll talk about here is the new automated lead dispute that they're doing here. Now, this sounds like it's going to be a huge pain in the butt. Like we had a meeting about it today and talked about, how do they know? And we just go back, they're letting AI figure it out. So while AI is figuring out, there's going to be some bumps in the road. But starting in September of last year, Again, it's a work in progress, but they are automatically disputing leads for you. But you still need to make sure you're on top of them rating those leads. Okay. You gotta kind of help train the system. A couple things on that automatic lead dispute. If it's not a good lead, for instance, if somebody calls in and they're, just a tenant in an apartment complex and they've got water damage, they're not the decision makers. Don't take their information down. Be very clear on the phone call that this is not something that you can handle for them. Give them direction on what they need to do, and then get off the phone and rate that lead as bad. Maybe I take that back. Don't rate the lead as bad. It's very circumstantial of how that's going to work. But basically what you're doing is while they're listening to the calls, AI, it's another robot out there, are listening to the calls. So they're wanting to just make sure that you're getting legitimate calls in. So if you do take contact information from that person, even if it's not a legitimate lead, you're going to get charged for that lead, right? So just be very cognizant of that. Not to take info. Don't spend too long on the phone with them. If they're arguing or whatever and they want help, give them some advice and get off the phone, just so you don't get charged for that lead. Again, this is going to be a work in progress for a little while. So I estimate it's going to be a little frustrating for everybody out there for a bit, but it will get better, I think, just given the history of how this has gone down the road. And unless, Nikki, you've got anything else to say in here, I think that's about it from the recap of 2024. Is there anything else you'd like to get out there for everybody before we start really doing deep dives into these other webinars?
No, we have a lot of really useful information coming as far as AI, as far as the Google Business Profile. We're going to try and keep you updated. As it's coming out, there's going to be a lot of changes. So as soon as we know about them, we'll do our best to make sure you know about them. If there's anything that you want to see us talk about a little bit more, send us a message. We are happy to answer the questions that you guys have out there. It's a little hard for us because I could talk about AI and GBP for 6 hours, but I don't want you guys to have to sit through a 6-hour thing. So let us know what it is that you're looking for. And most of all, advocate for yourself. Do what you think is best for your company, because most of the time it's you that people want to be hearing from, and it's your content that people are looking for. And make it for people. That's it.
Nikki, I really, want to thank you and your team for putting all this information together for everybody out there. I'm sure anybody, the tens of listeners that we have to this podcast, really appreciate your insight. Again, just inflate your whole entire ego and everything like that. Nikki is in the trenches. She's doing this day to day. If you're a client of Ironclads, you should feel very lucky that somebody like Nikki is a team lead for your Google Business Profile, and we're actively learning and implementing these things and executing these things for our clients here. And again, we're learning every day. So as long as you stay on top of this stuff and you listen to us and you listen to other people in the industry, you're going to be fine no matter what happens with the algorithm. We're not scared of Al. We're not scared of anybody. Our friend algorithm is not that scary of a guy as long as you're doing the right thing. So with that being said, guys, if you do need help, feel free to reach out to us at ironcladrestorationmarketing.com. You can give us a call at 855-976-3759. We will do a no holds barred, absolutely free of charge internet kind of review and audit, if you will, a strategy session. We'll take a look at where you're at now, what maybe you could improve. In a lot of cases, your people that call us are in really good shape, and we're going to give you that information one way or the other. We don't really hold back any punches when it comes to what you're dealing with online. And with that being said, that's enough for this episode of the Restoration Rundown. Thank you, Nikki. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Stay tuned for these other webinars that we mentioned. And until then, we will see ya. Bye, everybody.
Bye.